Well, Stephanie, it was another short day for Team Del Greco this week. You were back with immunity after last week's loss. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, we actually were happy to not be playing all the way through the episode for this one.
I can see that. Yeah, nice to take a break. Tell me, given that you did have a loss the week before, did you guys, sort of have a group meeting, a strategy going into the day on how you were going to handle the day?
We did. We sat down the night after our loss and the next morning and kind of discussed, where our weaknesses were, where we needed to bring in our strengths, and we kind of thought maybe we were overthinking things and that we were playing into the strategy too much and not just letting our games take over and trusting the fact that we were all three very good players and we all were there for a reason and put on this team. So we kind of said we're going to go back to the basics and just play golf and then add up the points at the end, and it worked out, pretty well for us. We didn't actually gain immunity in the first challenge, but we were able to, get through the episode without having to go that elimination challenge, which is huge.
Yep, absolutely. That's great. Well, you mentioned breakfast and getting together and talking in the morning and stuff. We didn't get to see breakfast this morning. That's kind of unusual. I guess they just, on the editing, they had to cut out something, but I was kind of disappointed. I always liked seeing how the people react to each other the next morning, going into the next day, especially as you move along through the series, because personalities start to change, behaviors start to change. Was there anything noteworthy at breakfast that day? Was it particularly quiet, or what was going on?
Yeah, well, I think part of the reason maybe why they didn't show breakfast was because it was almost like a little bit more somber, a little bit more tense. There wasn't so much joking around. Now, with a group with Jerry Rice and all of those guys, there's always going to be a little bit of lighthearted joking around, trying to keep the mood light. But at the same time, people are realizing that at any moment, someone could go home. Now, three teams had an X on the board. 3 teams were still without a loss. But it was getting to the point where I think it was becoming real for a lot of people, and especially our team. We started out so strong that for me, the thought of getting that first loss wasn't even in my peripheral vision. Like, it wasn't even close. And then all of a sudden it was there, and we had an X on the board, and so it kind of made everything real for everybody and realizing that anyone was capable of that happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I'm happy to see that there are 4 X's and that nobody's left the show yet, because it could have been that people could have gone home by now, but it's nice to spread it out. I mean, I think everybody would love to see 6 X's across the board and start with a clean slate, but I kind of feel like next week's preview that we're seeing on the Golf Channel website that there's going to be somebody going home next week, but I guess we can't talk about that because we haven't seen it yet.
My lips are sealed.
Okay, well, let's go back to the day and the golf, and obviously the strategy worked. Yes, it took 2 tries to get to immunity, but you did it very well, and it was so great to see Oren play so well that day. I hope it's a turning point for him.
Yeah, well, and I was so proud of Oren. It's tough after coming off, and what people don't realize at home is these are filmed. Each episode is one day, so it's not like you have a week to rebound and to practice and to work on what your weakness was in the previous episode. I mean, you're going to bed at 10, 11 o'clock and getting up at 4 a.m. the next morning ready for the next day and the next episode. Mm-hmm. So that is what a lot of people at home don't realize. It's hard to rebound from your mistakes and to forget about them when you're playing the very next morning. But he did such a great job. I was so proud of him for bouncing back and saying, he stepped up and he did exactly what he needed to do, and he showed everybody that he was fully capable. And when he made that putt, I was so excited. And even though we didn't win immunity in that challenge, we didn't play as aggressive maybe as we needed to, but we stuck to our game plan, and he stepped up and made the putt, and I was so proud of him. And I think it did a lot to instill that little bit of fear back in in the other teams of our team, Team Del Greco, that's saying, okay, maybe this isn't the team we want to mess with now that Oren's back. They have their stuff together again. So that really helped us in the long run to not getting picked into the elimination challenge.
There was some real joy for him. When Emily said, "Great putt," she was so excited for him.
That's the thing with this group of people. There were, not everybody got along great, and there was definitely some drama. But for the most part, everyone truly wanted everyone else to do well. Like when Emily made her putt after struggling so much in Mexico, and then after the first few episodes, like I was rooting for her to make that putt. And so that goes against your natural competitive nature because I knew if she made it, we were knocked out. But at the same time, I knew the demons that she had had and the struggles that she had had over some other putts, that I knew if she made it, it would truly be a turning point for her, and it was. And so I was thoroughly excited for her, and same with her for Oren. It was virtually the same thing. It's nice to see that type of sportsmanship coming out, and that's what I think is so great about golf, is that people genuinely want others to succeed. And that's the same thing when I'm out on the course with everyone on the tour. I want everyone to play well. I just want to play better.
That's a good way of putting it, yeah. Well, you obviously weren't there, and you watched the day's activities for the first time on TV last night. Anything jump out at you that surprised you watching it, about whether the challenge set up or how people played it or what the drama was going on? Anything you want to talk about there?
Yeah, it's funny because everyone thinks that I've seen the episodes beforehand, but I'm watching it for the very first time when all of you are. And for me, I saw all of the stuff that went on in our team and our little strategy meetings, but I didn't see anybody else's. I didn't see what went into their decision making, and I didn't really see a lot of the drama unless it was right in front of me. And so when you see the stuff that went on with Team Dolman, and I didn't really know everything that was going on behind the scenes, so it only gives me even more respect for Brian and Shannon for what they went through. And a lot of people think, well, it's helping them, and maybe it is. Maybe it helped Brian, spurred him on to hit a couple really good shots, but it's still hard to go through when your team leader and your captain is being so hard on you. So I think, for me, watching that gave me a lot of respect for Shannon, especially. It's tough as a girl. I mean, girls naturally have their feelings a little bit more out on their sleeves, and to be able to overcome that and not maybe get too upset. I mean, I think she was a little emotional about it, but to overcome it and still be able to hit the shots is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I'm just really glad that I had a teammate and a captain who supported me and built me up all the time.
Yeah, no, it's like night and day watching some of these teams.
I know.
Well, Z's emotion after hitting that putt or missing that putt was really out of character from what we've seen before. That was a big surprise for me, and I just wondered how much emotion came from other parts of, her teammate. I mean, she, Chad and her seem to get along, but he seems to be so patronizing with her.
Yeah, I don't know too much about that team because I didn't really see a lot of it. We were more focused on kind of the drama that was going on with the blue team, but I think, Z is a competitor. She does not like to lose. She's just like the rest of us, and she, up to that point, she had performed pretty well. So I think when she missed that putt, she was frustrated. But to be honest, sometimes letting your frustrations out and showing the other teams your weakness can be a negative thing, especially in a competition like this. Like when you have the losing team picking who they want to play and you're showing them weaknesses, you might necessarily be on the wrong side of the 8 ball when they come to picking who they want to pick. So did that hurt her in the long run? It might have hurt her confidence a little, and maybe that's why she missed the shorter putt in the elimination challenge. I'm not really sure, but it was unusual to see such strong emotion come out of her, especially someone who had been so steady and kind of like a stalwart, no emotion up to that point.
Yeah. Well, some fun stuff we're seeing or could be truly annoying and maybe gamesmanship a little bit is like the Ripken high five kind of weird thing they do after they've done something good. I mean, watching it, you kind of go, ooh, I don't know if I like that. But, does it start to affect the other players? Do you kind of like want to gag when you see them do those things?
Let's say down there, not so much, because everybody is excited. You get so into it, and you're so excited. Like when Emily made that putt and she, let out that huge scream. That's how the true big break emotion is. You live and die by these shots that you're hitting. Now, when I watch it afterwards, I kind of think, oh, okay, that looks a little silly in the celebrations. But, it's hard not to get excited and get into it. Team Ripon is a quirky team, and, if that's how they need to celebrate, then by all means. I wish I were immune so I could celebrate like that too, but maybe in next week.
Well,
some Joe Greco celebrating. I don't know.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. Let's hope so. Well, the other thing that people start to wonder when we saw Tim getting pretty mad at Mark for picking him, saying, I didn't pick you last week. Were there alliances starting to happen between teams that you thought would have been the reason why he was upset about this? I mean, or is every man for himself or every team for themselves in this? Because sometimes alliances trying to take out another team has happened in the past on big breaks, and I'm just wondering if any of that kind of stuff is happening here.
Honestly, no. I was really surprised when I heard him say that in the episode because in my mind and when we were down there, it was every team for themselves. There was no, you just have to fight and grind until you get through the day and until you get through the day without an X. And for me, the whole point is to figure out who you think is the best chance for your team to get out of that situation without a loss. And if that means picking a team that didn't pick you yesterday, then so be it. But, not anything against the green team. I think they've very well proven themselves in the elimination challenges and the strike challenges, and I think they've obviously overcome a lot of pressure and a lot of pressure situations, and that's giving them even more confidence going into it. So I definitely wouldn't say they would be an easy pick, but if that's who Team Bolger felt was the best chance of them getting out of there without a loss, then that's what you have to do. I would have done the same thing if that's what our team decided.
Yeah, no, I was not surprised at all with Bolger. I was just most surprised at Tim's reaction because you think in all of his years of playing and realizing this is not a partnership. We're out to beat each other.
I was very surprised when I saw his reaction as well. I didn't really think that was even a consideration. It's just that's part of the game is you got to show your strengths, and if you don't show your strengths, then you have a chance of getting picked.
Yeah. Well, the day was an interesting one and ended with 4 X's. Did you guys all eat dinner together that night?
We did, for the most part. A lot of the NFL players, some of them have their families with them, so once in a while they would go eat with their families. But for the most part, everybody kind of ate together as you were going through the process of getting your hair and makeup done and getting your interviews in.
Yeah, there's not much time for anything else. You don't get to go out and hit the range if you wanted, or even during immunity.
No practicing.
No practicing.
No,
so you're all
it's all just whenever you're done. Like when you see a team get immunity, that's the last ball they hit for the rest of the day. So it was tough. I actually flew directly back from Puerto Rico to a tournament on the Metro Tour in South Bend, Indiana, and I had to spend some serious time on the range because I had felt like I really didn't get the best practice that I needed.
Well, yeah, if you're getting immunity a lot, you're not hitting a lot of golf shots. So
true.
It's the good news, bad news. Well, when you did guys get together that night, what was the biggest topic of conversation over dinner? What do you guys talk about at the end of the day?
I think some of it goes back to the competition and the strategies, and people want to know why they picked this distance or what necessarily was going through their heads. So we talk a little bit about that, but for the most part, we were all trying to get to know each other. Remember, this is only the 5th episode, so the 6th or 7th day we ever had met each other for a lot of us, and so it was really about getting to know each other, kind of finding out about each other's families, hearing about different circumstances and situations they've been in before under pressure. Like for me, I wanted to talk to the NFL players as much as I could about how they overcame certain pressure situations and, what their routines were in getting rid of nerves or things like that. I was trying to learn as much as I possibly could from those guys because I knew that was a valuable resource for me as I'm starting my career in professional golf. They didn't have those circumstances come up in a golf situation, but when you're trying to kick a field goal to win the Super Bowl or when you're trying to, catch a pass to overcome a deficit that you're in a huge game, those are all really big pressure situations as well, and the mental side of it will be very similar to what I will go through eventually, in going through Q school and trying to win a major, all of those things I'm trying to do in my career. So for me, a huge part of what happened off the golf course was trying to learn as much as I could from these people.
Well, that's good, actually. I'm curious to hear more about that, and maybe we can talk about that in future interviews because
Yeah,
it'd
definitely.
be great
I
to hear.
learned
Yeah.
so much from the football players, from the other golfers. I mean, even my teammate Oren, he's a little bit older than me. He was 39 at the time, and I'm only 24. So hearing about his experiences and playing all over the world and, those types of things, there are things to be learned from every person in every walk of life. And for me, I just try to get as much out of those relationships as possible in terms of what I can learn. And I'm still young, so learning from people who have experienced more than I have is really important.
Well, that's great. Oh, I'm definitely going to ask you some questions about that in the future.
Okay,
So,
that's fine. Ask
okay.
away.
Okay. All right, let's close off for now. Is there anything you wanted to say before we sign off?
No, that's it. Just that, I was really proud of my team for bouncing back and really proud of Oren for coming up huge with that big putt. Even though it didn't win immunity, I think it kind of gave everybody a little sign saying, watch out for Team Joe Greco because we're back.
Yeah, it's good to see. Yep, you said that before. It's not over yet. So
It ain't over yet.
We're looking forward to talking again next week. Stephanie, thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
You
Jill,
have a
and
great
I will
day.
talk to you next week.
Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye.